Like if
No,
this.
no, you're fine. You're at 8:57.
Can you set it up on the camera?
Yeah.
That would be cool. Give me a second. Microsoft team meeting. Casey. Computer audio. Wow. Okay. That makes it better.
You're early.
Yeah, it wasn't loading at first. So I didn't know. Also, along with stuff in Mooresville, I have a guitar and I have a tripod in the post office that somebody mailed it to me and I didn't have a chance to go get it. I don't know if we can talk to Gopher about Monday.
This is going to be 3 hours, and I have somebody else coming in at 1.
Okay. I could go. I don't mind gophering today if we could do it. Because I can come back tomorrow. I didn't get my Walmart order.
Is it coming in today?
I haven't hit checkout yet. Which I should probably do really quickly. 1 second.
Linda will kill me.
Okay. I think she popped in for a second.
She did.
You're alone in the room. So.
That's fine. I'll be leaving. I just wanted to address the email situation. I would prefer not to be included in emails that Mr. O'Brien is not included in, since I'm his support. I don't want any.
Okay, you're gonna have to take that up with the Department of Mental Health. I did not send those emails. Those come from the Department of Mental Health, and
Sure.
They always go out to the facilitator.
I'm just letting you know that if I'm going to be emailed, I think Mr. O'Brien needs to be CC'd on any of them, just for transparency's sake.
Okay, again, you'll have to speak with the Department of Mental Health. They set up these events.
But you are the one that sent the email without him CC'd on it and removed him from.
Right. We're gonna have to take this
Sure.
offline.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it's clear that I don't want to be included in any emails about Mr. O'Brien without him on it.
Okay, we're gonna have to speak about this offline because I think this is an inappropriate conversation.
Sure thing.
Okay, good morning, Mr. O'Brien.
Morning.
Just give me 1 second. I just have to make a phone call related to this evaluation. We're still waiting on a court order from one of these cases, so let me just make sure that we have it before we begin. It was from an Orange County case.
Yeah. If you don't mind, I'd like it recorded too.
I am not permitted to record it. That's again up to the Department of Mental Health. You're gonna call. I just have to call about this one last court order, and then we'll begin.
Gotcha, bitch. I don't know how to mute myself. Gotcha, bitch. She said that I couldn't record it. So if they try to say anything, obviously we can't trust her judgment. I just do not trust people that don't have transparency, you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of bias going on. You see how she's kind of colonized or freaking out a little bit? You can't trust these people, man. Can someone drop in chat that this is a court eval? I mean, they'll know.
Okay, we're still waiting for one order, but by the time we get to that case, we'll have it, so. Okay, so good morning. Do you remember meeting with me? I think it was like November. Oh, you can't record if that's what you're doing.
I'm not.
Okay, can you show me your phone?
What about it?
Are you recording? I'm not. Okay, so we have 4 cases to go over. This evaluation is for the court. So I'm not going to be your treating psychiatrist. I'm just meeting with you. What are you doing with your phone there?
I put it away.
Okay. So this evaluation is to tell the court whether you're ready to proceed with your cases.
Okay.
Okay, I know we've been through one of these more on different cases. So a few things are important for you to know before we start. What we talk about today will go in my report, and my report goes to the court. So it does not just stay between us. It's not confidential. It will go to the court. Do you have any questions about that?
No.
Okay. If there's anything that you don't want to answer, you can say so. Sometimes I'm asked to speak with your attorney about the evaluation, sometimes the state's attorney. Sometimes I might be asked to testify about your competency. Those are all possibilities based on this evaluation. Okay. So we have gone through, when we met previously, we went through your history in a lot of detail. So I don't think we need to go through everything again, but I just wanted to go over what we talked about, and you can give me some, you can tell me if you want to correct anything or change anything. Okay.
Okay.
So where are you living right now?
Right now I'm staying in Randolph, Vermont.
Okay. Are you living with anyone, or are you living in a shelter?
I live in a tent in the woods.
Okay. How long have you been staying there?
I've been in a tent for 3 years now. I've been in the Randolph area for about 2 months.
Okay. Where were you living before that?
Before that, I was backpacking. Well, would you like a general, just like how I've been in the past year?
Yeah, why don't we do that? That sounds like a good idea.
Okay. Hold on. I went to, so the last time I was in Brattleboro, was I in Burlington? Last time we talked?
Well, I don't remember. I don't have that in front of me.
All right. So that's good. So the last time we talked, my charges were the simple assault and the violation of the restraining order, right? And maybe the mutual affray with my dad. Have we gotten that far yet?
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Okay. So the really quick, I was in public housing. That specific complex had a big problem with prostitution. So there was just a general rule that if the cops ever get called on you, you get evicted. So I had a neighbor that I don't know what was going on with him, but he was writing me love letters. He was like listening to my girlfriend and I having sex. Like someone would send me a video of him at the door with his ear to my door, stuff like that. And eventually I drew a picture of, Herbert the pervert from Family Guy. I drew a picture of that guy, the guy that goes, "Hey, Chris," and he's trying to be a pedophile. I drew that on the door on a piece of paper, and I said, "Please leave me alone, Derek." So he was calling twice a week for noise complaints, and the police would show up at my door. Eventually, I did make money on Dogecoin because I have friends that love stock trading. So in Section 8, got a nice Dodge Magnum. I started dressing better. I had a chain on, like snapback. I really big glow up. So at some point, the cops had just started getting a little more aggressive and angry when they saw me. They were trying to get into my house sometimes to look in my apartment to be like, "What's going on here? What's with the new car?" But it was initially because of the fake noise complaints. So that guy, I did get evicted because of that.
Mhm.
On the last day, that guy who has never left his house other than we'd see him go to the co-op in the morning, and then he would come out of the apartment to mess with me. Other than that, we never saw him leave the apartment. So for that guy to leave the apartment right when I'm packing my stuff out, and he's in the middle of the hallway, big and like proud, like he had done something, like I got, you know what I'm saying? Like he seemed like he was kind of
Mhm.
happy about it, kind of trying to rub it in my face. So I
Mhm.
just walked forward and I didn't move, and he didn't move. I bumped him, and he called the cops. When Washburn showed up, he hadn't looked at the footage yet, and he issued me the simple assault with no evidence. And then after he saw the footage, he just kept it. So that's why I had the simple assault. My mother has taken off all the stuff with the restraining order. She said that she has mental illness. She's called the lawyer and said that she exaggerated because she has problems, and that she did not want.
I don't, is that what county was that simple assault charge out of? Because I don't think that one's on my list for today.
Yeah, that was just where we were coming from. That was all in Wyndham. That's why we spoke last time.
Yeah.
The mutual affray was my dad has brain damage, PTSD.
Yeah.
I tried to help him get his car fixed, and he was like, "Don't fucking tell me what to do." And he pushed me into a wall, and then I punched him. I tried to leave. He chased me out of the apartment, grabbed my hair, threw himself on the ground, tried to choke me out. I had to bend his finger back until he let go, and then he ran away. That's all that was. So that's like all it was saying mean things, saying I'm hurt by my mom's behavior, and then she would file a restraining order and bait me. So she'd message me, I'd message her back, and then I'd get in trouble. That's all this started with. The other charges is years went by of traveling, being homeless. I think I have PTSD. I think now that I'm older, I think that I have CPTSD ruminations, where it's like you're kind of stuck processing things over and over and over again because your mind's trying to figure out what happened to you.
Mhm.
I seem to have that a lot, like where something
Mhm.
happens, like somebody says something mean to me, or earlier today, because of the way my hair is, I went in to get food at a cafe, and one of the owners of the cafe said, "Are you looking for a free meal?" And I was like, "No, I'm looking for a coffee." So like,
Mhm.
I'll probably think about that for a while. If I didn't
Mhm.
talk to Casey about it here at Capstone, for a while I would be like, man, like I think it would trigger all the times that I'd been abused, and would, like things make me feel powerless that shouldn't, because of times where I had my power taken from me, basically.
Mhm.
Um, but I traveled, I went to Plattsburgh, I door dashed, I went to Montreal for a little bit, I went to, I came back, lived in Keysville, eventually went to Burlington, door dashed, I was top dasher for a couple months. Then, that's when I started picking up all the charges for missing court, and for um like my aunt would message me for my mom. My mom's
Mhm.
trying to tell me something like, "Did you get your tires changed?" or something like that.
Mhm.
And then I would answer my aunt, and then my mom would call the police, and I'd get in trouble. So I have a lot of charges like that. I went to jail probably 10 times now. I've been to county jail. I think for some reason, if I have a charge, I'm only ever picked up on Friday, so that I have to stay the
Mhm.
weekend to make it to court. So I've served like maybe 2 months. I don't know how long, but a long time I've served in county jail now for stuff that's really
Mhm.
minor like this. Um,
Mhm.
it's not like violent assaults or anything. It's like very simple stuff.
Mhm.
Eventually,
Okay.
eventually I started performing. I make music. I have a certificate in audio engineering. I had a computer with me,
Mhm.
and I had to put a studio in my car. I would pop
Mhm.
up at Oakledge Park when all the kids would come in. I'd live in a tent in Oakledge, because it was getting Burlington, right, in 2023 especially. I don't know how it is now, but it was violent. It was like homeless people with hatchets, and I lost a couple friends that were runaway kids that were in the shelter program with me, that got invited to a trap house, and they filled them full of drugs, raped them, and dumped them. Like, and they were 19-year-old boys. I've
Mhm.
I've had that
Is
happen.
in Burlington?
Yeah, I've had that happen like twice with two kids,
Mhm.
where they got invited to an abandoned house, and then they filled them full of drugs and used them for whatever, and then left them. So like,
Mhm.
I had a homeless guy on mushrooms tell me that I was an ancient tree, and that if I grew too much, he would I would take over, so his Viking ancestors couldn't handle it. He said. So this like 60-year-old man was on mushrooms in a tree, and he pounced off the tree and choked me out in my tent, and I had to cut out of the tent with my machete that I keep at my side, and then I had to strangle him with the tent and run away.
Mhm.
No charges because there's no cameras, but I did call.
Mhm.
They moved me to Oak Ledge and I started performing. So eventually, a nice person. He's actually made the news a bunch of times for being one of the. He has like 1,800 charges right now because he just walks around places he's trespassed. I'm sure you've seen him if you watch Vermont Digger. He gave me his car because he was like, "I'm schizophrenic. I want to live at this mosque. I think that you have something good going for you." My dad's birthday was the next day, so I got a car from him because it was just
Mhm.
there were addicts that were living in the car and he needed help getting them out, so I had to call the parks department and get them a tent and
Mhm.
take them to like Price Chopper to get things out of the dumpster and get them everything they needed to get out of the car. And he was just grateful that I kind of fixed his life for him that day. So I had a car,
Mhm.
DoorDash for months. Everywhere I went, cops bothered me, especially in Morrisville. Like I had a couple instances of cops trying to like I'd be sitting in a parking lot and the cops would floor it like 60 miles an hour in a parking lot, swerve the car at me, stare me down through the window. That happened twice with Morrisville. In 2022, Sergeant Audette ripped my car door open and accused me of dealing drugs in the McDonald's parking lot because I had that nice car. So like I have a lot of instances like I've been ripped out of cars because I fit a description and then I asked them to show me a picture and they just Google like young men on Google and they show me a random guy. I've had that happen in New York. So I have like a lot of trauma with cops. I've been like I think I told you my mom told them I had a grenade and
Mhm.
remember that? My mom told them I had a grenade so they showed up and they pepper sprayed me and put me on the ground because they didn't tell me what they were doing. I just lifted my arms. I'm like, "What are you doing? Talk to me. I'm right here."
Mhm.
And they made
Okay, so let me ask
yeah.
you, so are you, I don't know much about Capstone. Are you getting I know you have a case manager. Are you getting like psychiatric treatment too? Do you have a psychiatrist?
Um, they definitely help my mental health. I've been thinking about BetterHelp. I think I have a call in, so Casey's working on putting me in touch with people that do mental health services. Like Clara Martin
Mhm.
Center up here has services, and also through Vermont Medicaid, we're trying to figure out. We're
Mhm.
also not sure.
So it's not the mental health, they don't help, like they're not mental health providers though at Capstone.
Yeah, I think there's something with the Trump administration right now that they're shutting down programs. So there's something going on there.
Do they have like, do they have anyone there that prescribes medication or anything like that?
No, that's up in Morrisville. I have a primary care physician, and I think I have a
Okay.
psychiatrist there.
Are you taking any medication right now?
Um, I take, I have omega-3s and multivitamins, and they help a lot. We're not
Mhm.
sure. I used to be on Synthroid for thyroid.
Mhm.
Haven't taken that in a long time. And I don't really I don't feel I'm happy that I'm not on medication because this is the first time in my life, like since I was 7, I think, that I haven't taken medication regularly. And for a long time, it was hard because I was getting used to being normal. I think like it's like with a piano, if you cut off the middle section and you try to play a song, it's like you try to do stuff and no sound comes out. That's a lot of how like being on antidepressants for your whole childhood feels like. It feels like I didn't have access to a certain level of the human experience because I
Mhm.
had this chemical thing that got me stuck. Like I couldn't. Now that I'm off it, it's like a lot easier to be grounded and be present. It took a lot of
Mhm.
suffering. It took a lot of being
What,
out.
when did you last take any mental health medications? How long ago?
Years, probably
Okay.
like 2022, maybe 2021.
And when was the last time you were in a psychiatric hospital?
Probably before I got off meds,
Mhm.
like 2021, maybe like spring. I think I went to Spring Harbor in Maine in 2019, and then I think I was in Miami. I got the cops found me with weed, and instead of arresting me for having some weed on me, I went to a mental health facility, and they gave me schizoaffective because I told them when I was 13 I was diagnosed with schizoaffective because I wasn't being honest about that I had been doing acid with the seniors. I didn't want to tell them, so they gave me schizoaffective, and then they changed that diagnosis when I opened up that I had been doing acid. They gave me HPPD, and then eventually they removed it. So if you access my records in 2021 and see that Spring Harbor said I was schizoaffective, they didn't say, like, they basically told me I was fine and that I could leave anytime I wanted. And I actually, like, I helped a lot of kids that had been in there for years. There was like a 27-year-old that had been there since he was 23. He'd been in there for years for schizophrenia, and I helped him advocate for himself and do push-ups every day. And he got out pretty soon after I did. It was just a lot of people that don't have routine end up winding up with a lot of these mental illnesses suddenly, and that when they develop a routine, they become normal. I guess functioning enough that people don't give them diagnoses.
Okay. So right now you don't have a psychiatrist, you're not taking mental health medication, right?
No.
Okay. And are you door dashing now, or when did you last do that?
I was just about to get there. My car broke down early 2024 in Randolph. So I stayed in Randolph for a couple of months. The first week I was here, somebody came up to me and said that he runs this town and that he's like a big time drug dealer and he wants to know why I'm in town. And I told him, I just met Linda at the Chamber of Commerce. I don't think you run anything. And he had a baton, like a flashlight that doubles with a handle that you can screw on. He was wearing a COVID mask. He came at me in the laundromat. It's on camera. I happen to have a hatchet in my backpack because I've been out here long enough. I know to keep a hatchet for firewood and for defense. I had a machete and a hatchet. So I just pulled the hatchet out of my bag. I told him, if you come at me with that baton, I'm going to swing at you. He came at me with the baton. I threw him over my shoulder and I hit him with the dole side just to scare him because I knew that he wasn't really about it. I think he was pretending. So he ran out. They crashed into a telephone pole on the way out. And after that, so many rumors flew around the town. People threw beer cans at me walking around. People threw cigarette butts at me. I was trespassed from places I'd never been to. Randolph.
So he crashed into a telephone pole in his car?
His getaway driver crashed, yeah. It was
were they injured?
No, they backed into it. They were fine.
Oh.
People told me I killed him. People told me he died that night, but I think people have told me that he's alive. So I don't know why they were trying to make me think that I somehow killed him. But it had me thinking like maybe they crashed or something, but he's fine.
Okay.
State police came that night. They didn't charge us with anything. But after that, it was like I couldn't get a job in Randolph. I couldn't go anywhere. I was stuck. And at the park and ride, I saw people overdosing. People robbed me. A couple times I woke up and looked out the window and there was a guy jerking off staring at me. And that guy came back multiple times and also went to multiple people's cars that were living in the park and ride, and they just caught him standing outside jerking off. So eventually I went to the barn, and this is where one of the charges is. I went to the barn. I didn't have enough money for a drink. I said, hey, the eclipse is tomorrow. I get paid on, like, I'm expecting a Cash App donation. Somebody's going to send me money on Cash App in a couple days. I'm going to take this. I'm going to take this drink, and I'm going to come back in 2 days, and I'll give you $3 for a $1.50 soda. And the cop there was like, I'm not going to do anything about it, but it's not a good thing to do. I came back a week later, and the manager at the barn bumped me out the way, which is already a simple assault, because she bumped me way worse than I bumped into that guy. Then she took a trash bag and whipped it at me. I was just getting water from the fountain. I got the water. She came up and was like, would you like to pay for that? And I said, would you like to pay for anything? And she was like, yeah. And I said, can you name one thing you'd like to pay for? And she was like, no. And I'm like, don't treat me so bad because of my hair. It's prejudice. You don't know what I'm going through. I'm not a bad person. And I did offer to pay for the drink. It was just, I was having I was trying to explain that how bad my life was at the time, and it wasn't really my fault. Things were just happening to me. But I left. There was a nice old woman white woman with dreadlocks. So I thought that was symbolic of the moment. So I said, I like your
Mhm.
hair. And then she was like, thank you. And then I left. By the time I got like a quarter mile away, the cops showed up with their guns drawn and they forced a search. So I had to pull my phone out and record and try to get him in trouble.
Mhm.
It didn't work. But because she told him that I had because of the rumors about the hatchet, I didn't have the hatchet on me, but she told them I threatened to kill her with the hatchet and I whipped it out and like tried to kill her with a hatchet. That really happened. So the cops showed up expecting me to be armed and dangerous and like violent. So which I don't know if that's a felony. The cops didn't care and they wouldn't look at the camera footage to prove that I didn't even have a hatchet and that she lied. So
Okay.
this
Is this related to any of the, so
Yeah,
let me just go over.
this
which
is related.
cases we're talking to. I just want to, just in the interest of time, I want to make sure that we focus on, so one of the cases, there are two from Lamoille County. One is from October, and that was at a Auchan hardware store, and then there's one from,
Orange.
actually, the other one is from October also, and that one is at, let's see, this is when they were doing a foot patrol and they found you in a tent.
Oh,
And they asked you, those are the two from Lamoille
They
County.
did.
And then
So they did charge me with that.
Okay, and then the other two are from Orange County, and one is happened at the barn where they said you stole a charger. And then the other one is from June of last year. It was an unlawful trespass at Vermont State University. So those are all so there are no assault, well, actually, no, I'm sorry, there is a simple assault with fluids on law enforcement for one of the Lamoille County charges, but otherwise no assault charges for
So-
these cases.
I'll start with Orange County because I'll go on the timeline.
Okay,
So
let's do this then. So
I'm a bit,
usually, just hold on one second. Okay, so usually I would go through your history with you. We've already gone through that, so I would like to review it just to make sure I have everything
Okay.
correct.
yeah, I'm about to get into the
But-
charges.
Yeah, but I think I think it probably makes sense to start though with your cases in this case. So let's do this. We're gonna start instead with the competency part, and then we'll come back and I'll make sure that I have all the history
Okay.
correct, since I have that information already. So first, I'm gonna ask you some questions that are just general questions about how court works, that, same questions I asked you last time, and then we'll go through each of the cases individually, okay? All right, so which is more serious, a felony or a misdemeanor?
Felony.
What does probation mean?
I think probation is like a set of restrictions on your behavior outside of prison.
What are some restrictions they might put in for probation?
Like a curfew, limiting your time out of the house, like limiting your ability maybe to go online. Like if you get arrested for child porn or something, they might restrict your computer usage, or they should at least. I don't know, maybe probation doubles as you can't go certain places. You're not allowed to go to like a mall or something if you have like a terroristic threatening charge or something. I don't know. Serious stuff.
Okay, what happens if someone's found not guilty of their charges?
The courts leave them alone. They get all their power back and they can walk away free.
Good. Where do they send people who are found not guilty by reason of insanity?
Mental institution, probably, hopefully. A farm.
If they're serious charges, they usually would go to a psychiatric hospital. If they're not serious charges, they might just be required to do outpatient treatment or take their medication. When someone is charged with a crime, what are the pleas that they can enter in court? What are their options?
Guilty, not guilty, and not guilty by insanity, right? Or is there other ones?
Good. Sometimes no contest is an option. What does not guilty mean?
It means that the court has found you innocent of these charges.
And what happens to a case? So let me ask you again, actually, I think I asked that wrong. What does it mean if you're pleading not guilty?
It means that you are saying that you are not guilty of these charges.
Good.
Either, but is it that you didn't do it, or that there's not sufficient enough evidence to prove that you did it, or that there's something going on in the court system or the arrest that makes it so guilty isn't an option? Because there was a guy with Fern Feather that stabbed her and dumped her in a ditch, and there was something that the cop did that made it so he couldn't be found guilty. Because the cop said something to him like, "What were you afraid of?" Trying to like help his case. I'm just opening. Is it all? Am I allowed to drink this energy drink? Okay.
Sure, that's fine.
Cool.
There's no alcohol, I assume.
Nope. It's
Okay.
Viking berry.
Okay, good. So what happens to a case when someone pleads not guilty?
It's more been time. No, it's if they plead not guilty. Sorry.
Mhm.
If they plead not guilty, they're saying that they're going to argue that those things about not guilty apply to their case.
So what's that process in which they do that?
They have to prove the faults and the innocence. They have to prove to the judge. But is it any trial involves a jury? So like even for this, they want to see if I'm competent for a trial. Is there going to be a jury?
Not necessarily. Everyone has the right to a trial by jury, but some cases it's a bench trial, and that's when the judge decides if the person's guilty or not guilty. But you should be offered, if you go to trial, you should be offered a jury trial.
I would love a jury.
And sometimes people waive the jury and just want the judge to do it. Okay, what does it mean to plead guilty?
I'm saying, yeah, it should be that you did it. It should be saying that you did it.
What happens to a case when someone pleads guilty?
The judge or the jury, I don't know if the jury comes up with the punishment, but somebody comes up with a just punishment for your actions. Right?
Yes.
Cool.
What does not guilty by reason of insanity mean?
I think it means that you were mentally incapable of being responsible for your decisions based off of something that was going on with your mental health. Say you have a brainworm like RFK Jr., but the brainworm controls his mind and makes him kill that bear and stuff it in the trunk like he did and dump it in Central Park. If the brainworm was responsible for that, then he can't be found guilty. Or like if you have Neuralink and somebody hacks your Neuralink and you like stab your daughter to death or something, I think that would be a reason of something wrong with your head.
Okay, you're on the right track. So it means that at the time of the crime, the person had symptoms of a mental illness that made them either not know what they were doing was wrong or control their behavior.
Yep.
Okay, so in a trial, what is the defense attorney's job?
I would hope that the defense attorney is responsible for providing a sufficient evidence and argument for the case that they're pleading. But that's never been the case for me.
Why is that?
I mean, one lawyer hasn't spoken to me. Like one of these charges for missing court, I don't know if I'm getting charged for missing court or if they just had the arrest warrant. One time a lawyer just didn't message me. I didn't know his number or know who he was. I spoke to him at court or in jail, and he just never got back to me. He said he was going to email me. I emailed the court system trying to find out which guy is my lawyer, my public defender. Nobody got back to me. And then one of these charges for the resist bodily fluids, they showed up because I missed court because I didn't know who my lawyer was. And then after that, he resigned and I got a new one. So he might have messed up, or I don't know, Orange County. We'll get into it.
Okay. What is the state's attorney's job in a trial?
Is the state's attorney different than a prosecutor?
That is what you call the prosecutor in Vermont,
Okay.
so it is a prosecutor. So what
Okay.
is their job?
Yeah, their job is to provide evidence for their argument, whether it's probably that you committed the crime. I don't think that they'll ever argue that you're innocent.
Right, the state's attorney is the one that is bringing the evidence against you, so if they're taking the case to trial, they think you're guilty and
Yeah.
they want you to be found guilty. What is the judge's job?
To hear both sides and come up with a just decision based off of these arguments and evidence in the court of law, the system that they're trained to uphold, maybe.
What does a jury do if there's a jury?
The jury listens to both sides and they work together to come up with a unanimous decision about the outcome of the trial. And I don't know if does a jury supersede a judge or is it just helping the judge make its decision? All I know is from lawyer shows like Daredevil.
So what are they deciding at the end of the trial?
Guilty and not guilty.
Good. Yeah, if there's a jury, it's the jury's job to decide if the person is guilty or not guilty. So the judge gives them instructions and decides, what evidence will be admitted and makes other decisions about the process. But if there's a jury, they're the ones that are deciding if the person's guilty or not guilty. What does the defendant do during a trial?
The defendant has the I mean, it's not just that I sit there. I have options to speak to the judge. I think I'm allowed to talk to prosecution, talk to the courts, and talk to the jury. So I don't know if my job is also to defend my case if I want to, or if I just have to be present for the trial. I'm not totally sure what a defendant does other than sit there and await the outcome.
That's a good question. So you can't just blurt things out or speak, when it's not your turn. But if the judge asks you a question, you can answer it. You have the option of testifying if you and your lawyer decide that you want to testify. But those are the main opportunities where you'd be able to speak. Most of the time, you're sitting there and listening and paying attention because there's some details that a witness might say, and your lawyer might not know everything about that particular part of the case. So you want to make sure that you're, telling the lawyer what your lawyer needs to know. So it's important to pay attention and not just sit there, but in general, you can't, just speak out whenever you want to.
Yeah. By the way, you're on a big flat screen TV in this room. If you're like, why is he looking up and not at the camera? It's because I'm looking at you on the TV.
Okay, yeah, I figured there's probably a monitor. Thanks for letting me know though. Okay, what do witnesses do in a trial?
Calling a witness. A witness was at the event and provide the testimony on what they witnessed.
Good. Do they have to tell the truth?
We'd hope so.
Right, they're required to, they're supposed to. And they can get in trouble if they don't, they can get charges themselves.
Yeah, it's just hard. It's hard in Vermont. There's no cameras. Like I can't wait to tell you about some of these charges. I think you're gonna like it. I had to make these appointments that are early in the morning. I stay up at night because I'm out in the woods. There's no real my phone could die and I might miss an alarm, and then I'm worried that people might I don't know if I miss this, if I'd have an arrest warrant or something. So if I see, so I'm on a lot of caffeine, but if I might be different if I had gotten rest.
Okay. Well, you're doing fine so
Cool.
far, but thanks for letting me know. Hope you get to sleep after this.
Yeah, I have.
Okay, so do defendants always have to testify in their own cases?
No.
Right, they decide with their lawyer. If they decide to testify, do they have to answer all the questions and tell what happened?
If the lawyer asks. Like if you testify,
it-
yeah, it's just you have to answer the lawyer's questions.
Right. And it would be your lawyer and the state's lawyer that would be asking you questions.
Yes.
Okay, so when the state's attorney or the prosecutor is asking you questions in a trial, what are they trying to do?
They're trying to gain more evidence to support both cases, both sides of the case, both arguments. So they're just prying for information to get a better idea of what the actual situation is to be able to make their decision.
So remember, the state's attorney is the one that has brought the charges against you. So they believe that you're guilty. So they're bringing evidence to try to prove that you're guilty. So when they're asking you questions, they're trying to get you to say things that would make you be found guilty.
So they're asking for information with an agenda.
Right, yep, they are on the other side of the case, and they are trying, if they didn't think that they had enough evidence to have you be found guilty, they wouldn't have brought the case to trial. So they're, trying to get you to be found guilty.
Yeah.
So they're asking you questions to make you say things that would lead to you being found guilty. Okay, does the court that's handling your cases have, or the courts that are handling your cases have authority over you?
I guess so.
What does evidence mean?
Evidence is pieces. It's just information. It's just evidence or things that apply to the case that are the foundation for the charges.
Okay, what's a plea bargain?
A plea bargain is a deal that you make to decide on. I don't think there's a plea bargain for not guilty, so it's deciding to be guilty in exchange for a deal with your sentencing or the judge's decision.
Good. Right, a plea bargain is when you agree to plead guilty to something like a lesser is not others, then they give you a lighter punishment than you would get if you were found guilty at trial.
Yep.
So what plea do you have to enter to take a plea bargain?
Guilty.
Okay. And what rights do you give up if you take a plea bargain?
I don't know. But I mean your right to walk around, your right to, I don't know.
Okay, you're giving up your right to go to trial and possibly be found not guilty, and you're giving up your right to appeal also. Okay, if your lawyer decided not to have you testify in these cases, could you go along with that?
I could, or I could say I could refuse and do it. I'm pretty sure I have free reign to supersede my lawyer's decisions.
Do you have a lawyer now, or you might have more than one, I guess?
Yeah,
Do you know
I have a lawyer in Orange and a lawyer in Lemoy.
Do you know who they are?
Yeah, I'm really happy with Lemoy County. Orange, I don't think I've ever spoken to him. I just show up when he tells me to, and he doesn't.
Okay.
Lamont,
sorry, go ahead.
James Lamonda and Kirk Williams. Williams.
Kirk Williams and Lemoy. Is it Lemoy? How do you say it? Lemoy? Am I saying
Lemoy.
it wrong?
Lemoy.
Lemoy.
It's French.
Lemoy. Okay.
That area
Okay.
is right where the old line was between the indigenous territory and the United States. So everything's French.
Oh.
Everything's French up there because of the French-Indian War.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. So Kirk Williams and Lemoy, and who is in Orange? Do you know who it is?
James Lamonda.
Oh, James Lamonda. Okay. And you haven't really spoken with Mr. Lamonda?
I text him. He doesn't really answer. I've tried to talk to him about stuff. He doesn't really respond, but
Mhm.
he's present at court. And he does this lawyer lets me know when my court is, and he doubled it the last time I didn't know when court was. So he's kind of proactive about that at least.
Lamonda or Williams or both?
Lamonda. Williams has a secretary, and she's really cool.
Okay, good. So do you have confidence in Mr. Williams?
I'm not totally sure. He did stick up for me. He got up and yelled at the judge, and he yelled at the people in the pews about what the cops had done to me because it's wrong. But we've been having a lot of trouble getting the body cam footage from them. They tried to trespass me from the police station at first, and they're just not giving us the body cam footage. They're just refusing, even though now that they have to charge me, since they've decided, it took them months to decide to charge me with that bodily fluids. I think they had to make sure their thing was airtight before they went through with it. They were not giving us the body cam footage, so now they have to at least, which is good. But I trust. I think I'm gonna talk as well. I don't know law, but if they try to give me some serious charges for this, I'm definitely gonna work with him. I'd rather him than somebody I don't know, because I've been talking to him for almost a year now, probably like 8 months. So yeah, I don't think he's like unable or inefficient or whatever you would call it, inadequate. And I think he's a good man.
Okay. How about Lamonda? Do you have confidence in him?
Nah, I don't know. He doesn't even speak. He hasn't spoken for me in court. He doesn't really say anything. They just they talk about the evaluation. So they're kind of just laid back. I don't think they really, I mean, I'll get into it in a minute. They've done some things that I don't think are appropriate for their job.
Who has?
The prosecutor and the judge. And Lamonda just kind of stood there and didn't say anything. And really quickly, I'll get into it later, but the cops had done something to me in the arrest that was considered excessive. And the judge in Orange, not in Lemoyne where the charge happened, the judge in Orange kind of picked on me a little bit about it, like made fun of me for that happening to me. And then the prosecutor told me to get a life.
Wait, so the judge had picked on you about it?
Yeah, he made a joke about something that I feel is traumatic. And him and the prosecutor laughed while I had to sit there and not say anything. And then before that, the prosecutor said basically, like, I've reviewed your file. I think you should do something more productive with your life, but we're not going to take it to serious charges. So I was like, you can't tell me to get a life in the courtroom.
Okay. How can you help your lawyers with your cases?
Provide evidence, work with them, study, find things that can help your case, listen to their advice. Hopefully you have a lawyer that's rooting for you and not just kind of laid back. So that they'll probably have stuff for you if they need help. But the best thing you can do is just keep showing up.
Is there anything you disagree with your lawyers about so far?
No.
What would you do if you disagreed?
I would tell them if it was like a more serious thing, and if they wanted to take the trial a certain way and I didn't like that, I would probably ask them to take the back seat and let me talk, and then be my legal counsel for me advocating for myself. Instead of being like the main guy to talk to the judge, I would ask to speak, even if that's not appropriate.
What does confidentiality between you and your lawyers mean?
It means that everything that happens between us that's protected under the confidentiality is not allowed to be shared with people outside of the confidentiality agreement.
Okay. What should you do if a witness is telling lies about you in the courtroom?
I wish that I could get up and scream, but I think I have to tell my lawyer, and then he'll have to. I mean, in the lawyer shows, the lawyer has to pry the witness for his lie. I don't know how it is in real life. If he doesn't have an accurate testimony, do we just wait and I have to tell the lawyer, and then at some point the lawyer comes with a separate argument about that testimony, and they have to go into that, or do you just move on to the next?
That'd be a good thing to talk to your lawyer about, but if the witness is lying, your lawyer might not know. So you want to make sure that you tell your lawyer, like, because your lawyer might not know every single detail about what happened. So you want to communicate that to him at some point so that he can, then follow up with questions about that. What should you do if you don't understand something a witness is saying? Good. How are you expected to act in court?
Respectfully and responsibly.
And I know we kind of talked about this, but when can you speak out in the courtroom?
Technically, whenever, but probably when maybe your lawyer has to ask permission. I was just told that if you ever want to speak, you just stand up.
Who told you that?
That was back in the day in DCF with a child court. If they ever wanted me to
Yeah.
speak, they just said stand up if you want to kind of get into the conversation about your future. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it works like that in adult court. You generally don't want to just stand up. So you can speak when if the judge is speaking to you directly, or you can testify if you decide to do that with your attorney. But yeah, you need some kind of permission to speak out in general. What do you think would happen if you spoke out or moved around the courtroom without permission?
I think the judge would be irritated, but I don't think there would be anything, depending on what I said, like I've seen videos of a guy saying like fuck you to the judge, and then the judge gives him 40 days in jail. I've definitely seen that happen before, but I don't think there's like a punishment for it. Is there? If I get up and speak out of turn?
There's a potential punishment. It doesn't mean that it would always be enforced, but you could be charged with contempt of court. So there is something that they could charge you with. So generally, you don't want to, speak out abruptly in court. Have you ever had trouble behaving in court?
Yeah, last time I went to court was a couple days ago, and because they had tried last time, they talked over me and they said some things that were disrespectful. I just asked if I could speak. When they allowed me to speak, I just started talking, and then I didn't stop talking until I was done with what I wanted to say. So I was just explaining things I'll tell you about when we get into the charges. And they were like, they said, I think the prosecutor tried to say the adults are talking, which is really I think snide is the right word. He tried to tell me the adults were talking. And I just talked over him. And I said, well, the first time I met you, you told me to get a life, because they were talking about being respectful in court. And I was like, and the judge made that comment, and then they allowed me to speak. And I wasn't saying anything bad. I was saying that talking about the charges and talking about the impact I've made in Vermont since I've been traveling around working with communities, solving these problems with homelessness, and that Capstone is ready to offer me 100 community service hours for what I've done. So I was just going to tell them that I'm not and I apologize for missing court the first time because I didn't know. So that's what I was trying to tell them, is that I'm not, you might see the hair and you might see that I'm young. The old judge saw this tattoo on my neck and the way I dressed, and they treated me like I was a heroin dealer because I think they thought that I was. So I was just trying to explain to them that I'm not. And at the end of it, they said I appreciate it, but they were pretty mad that I didn't stop talking when they told me to. I didn't get charged with
How are you handling waiting for your cases to proceed?
It's torture. I hate it. I hate that I spend all this time thinking about. It's like I'm a creative person, so most of my life is trying to put my mind together and what I'm experiencing in life into something better. Like I'm always trying to make a perfect song, or a piece of art that's like something, maybe like a short film I want to work on, or I just got a guitar. I daydream about, I'm writing a TV show. I daydream all day. When I have court stuff like this, probably because of the trauma that we can get into around police and the court system, it just always feels like there's a parasite on me that's trying to make me feel powerless. And often feel like it's taking from me just because I feel it's unfair. Like it's been almost a year. It was 3 years for that simple assault that I kept going back for. And it was almost a year now for this stuff. So I just feel like, I see there's a cop in my home. I don't know, you're in New Hampshire, right? Or you're out of state. There was a cop in southern Vermont named Todd Chisholm, if you know about him. He pled guilty to raping a 10-year-old until she was 16, and the judge gave him 30 days in jail and probation for 6 years because he was a state trooper and whatever plea deal he took. So I'm like, how come that guy raped a girl for 6 years and pled guilty to it and got 30 days, but I've been going to court and having to like move my whole life around, stressing out about not getting arrested because my phone isn't charged and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And then the
Yep.
they treat I just didn't like the way I was treated by law enforcement and the judge, and I have to deal with all that. And then I see these guys that get off like this.
Yeah,
So I just
I hear you.
see. I think that's I caught. I When you talk about mental health, I have my chat GPT set up with all of. I asked it to just take everything you know about psychology and have it in your database ready. And I'm just going to tell you my problems and then tell me back what you think. And I also
Mhm.
had it take in every single system of astrology and the old
Mhm.
systems like Kemet, Vedic astrology, numerology, Masonic stuff. Because I know a lot of the psychologists were Masons that did like, who's the guy? Not Crowley, but Jung, and I think Freud also had books on black magic and how to do rituals. That they
Okay,
also,
let me ask you this. Do you think that
yeah.
you have a mental illness now?
Honestly, I don't think that I can classify like I'm at a point where I think that we don't understand enough about humans. Not to sound like a hippie, but living out in the forest, there was so much more of reality in life than living in society had ever done for me. So I was an animal for a year and out there with the birds, like yelling at crows and like feeling connected to the forest and feeling like when there's a person there would be like a homeless person that wanders into the woods like a quarter mile away, and I would feel like there's something off in the forest. Like it was like I was able to tune into the electromagnetic signals that the trees would put out, which is you can measure and prove that they do it. It was like I just knew. And I've really asked for shooting stars like 10 times. I can have people vouch that I've asked for shooting stars and just got them immediately. I'm like, if I should go see my dad tonight, please give me a shooting star right to left. And then I look up and right where I'm looking, a shooting star goes. So I have no idea. Like 90% of the world is talking to a god in their head that talks back. Like 90% of the world would be classified as schizophrenic under the DSM or whatever, because they're talking to something that isn't real and they have a delusion that there's a god that they're speaking to. So I don't know if I have a mental illness. I would say if I had anything, it would be CPTSD. And maybe I know when I was 14, I had a IQ of 120 and I was on acid when I took it. I was getting off acid. Um, so at some point, I think that I was somebody. When I trauma, smoking a lot of weed with SSRIs felt like it blew my brain up for a little while. Yeah, I smoked a lot of weed when I was 18, and then I was on SSRIs. It felt like my brain would explode, and then I didn't realize that I had been dysfunctional for a long time. I thought that I had a brain injury from a suicide attempt.
Okay. Do you think you're competent to stand trial?
Do you think I'm going to go to jail for these charges?
That would be up to the
Yeah.
court. I can't. Your lawyer might have a better idea of what they're thinking of.
I'd like to say no so I could go to a mental institution if I have to, but I'm worried if I say no because I have PTSD or whatever, um, that I would be forced to go either way. So I guess I'll say sure, and then maybe I'll have a schizophrenic break in the courtroom if they find me guilty. But I don't think it'll be that serious. Just checking my phone.
Okay, so let's start going over some of your cases here. Let's see, so we're gonna go over the Lemoy County cases first. So what were you charged with in the case at the hardware store, the Obashan hardware store?
Do you mind if I use the bathroom first?
Sure.
I almost asked if you wanted anything from the fridge.
Well, thank you for asking.
Okay.
Okay.
So you were asking about
The case from the Obashan hardware store in Morristown, what were you charged with for that incident?
um that was taking a propane tank.
Okay. And do you know what the name of the charge was that they gave you?
Maybe petty larceny.
It was a retail theft.
Okay.
You were also charged with violation of conditions of release at that point.
Because I was charged with taking that.
Let's see, because I guess you had conditions of release from October of 2023, prohibiting criminal behavior. So yeah, basically because you were charged with that, that was a violation. Okay, so is retail theft $900 or less a felony or a misdemeanor?
Misdemeanor.
And what about violation of conditions of release?
Probably a misdemeanor.
Good, yep, they're both misdemeanors. So what's retail theft? What does that mean?
It means taking something from a store that you don't pay for.
Okay, what is a violation of conditions of release?
It means doing something that the court has prohibited you from doing.
So what kind of punishment could you get if you were found guilty of retail theft?
I would say a fine or jail time.
Right, you could get up to 6 months in jail and up to a $500 fine. What about violation of conditions of release?
Is it that it depends on the charge, the condition?
It might have, like, what they end up giving you might depend on it, but the sentencing structure is that you could get up a maximum of 6 months in jail and a maximum of $1,000 fine.
Okay. I'm just trying to figure out how to make you go full screen again, and I have to find the charger for this computer because it might die soon. So
Okay.
I'm just gonna ask Casey real quick. I can get the charger. Yeah, this one is Casey's. Do you have the charger for the computer? Is it? Yes. Is this in here?
You got it?
All right. If you can hear me, I can keep answering questions
Okay, great.
whenever you're ready.
All right. So, what are you hoping will be the outcome of this case?
I'm hoping I'll get community service and I'll be able to speak about all the things that I've done for so many people. And they'll recognize how unfair I was treated. Hopefully, they'll recognize that immediately after these retail thefts and petty larceny, it's noted that I went back with double the amount that I took and I've offered it to them for months. I took a propane canister. I'm not pleading not guilty to it. I've offered them, I have 4 propane canisters now. The problem was, we can get into the, do you want to get into the
Yeah, we'll
back?
get into that in a
Yeah.
sec. Okay, yeah, well, why don't you just tell me what you remember about this incident?
Okay, so you want me to go through the incidents now?
Just this one
Just that one.
specifically,
Okay.
the propane
Yeah,
incident.
we'll go by charge. I got you. So backstory, I went to Morrisville. I got to Morrisville. I took a bus up there to fix a bike. I did pray. I did a live video with my friends. I prayed. We did a group prayer for a bike. I wanted a red bike, red and black. My albums all start with S: Sundance, Storm, Salvation, The Sun, and then KC, but the S is big. So I wanted a bike with an S on it. I wanted to specialized. And then about an hour later, I was walking down the street. Like I just had a thought randomly, walk down this way, go for a walk, smoke a cigarette. And I found just laying there at like 900, I swear to God, I didn't steal it. $900 bike. I talked to the police. They said nobody's registered it stolen. We can't find the owner with the VIN. You can have it because we don't know who to give it to. So I found like a $900 specialized bike that fit me perfectly and was my album covers. It just needed some things fixed. So I went to Morrisville to get it fixed at Chuck's Bikes, and I decided to stay because it's nice up there. I did have a lot of instances in the years before with the cops kind of giving me a lot of problems with swerving at me. And one time he ripped open a car door and accused me of dealing drugs when I was eating a Big Mac. So like that made me uneasy at first. So I knew the cops were kind of that type of country, like kind of do what they want, weary of outsiders. Morrisville had also told me that if I plan on sticking around, they feed the pigs real well. Like a woman at a gas station told me that if I wanted to stay in Morrisville, that I'd probably die and get fed to pigs. So I was kind of uneasy about traveling around. I was kind of like stuck in enemy territory, it felt like. So I was trying to find an outlet and just get my needs met, continue doing what I'm doing. Like I was trying to learn eBay reselling, and I was designing clothes and making music, and I needed to be on my phone to make money. So I asked TD Bank there was a supervisor there that we bonded over her she said she had been to the retreat a couple times. I grew up in the retreat in residential. So we talked about that. She said I'm fine to be at the TD Bank at night charging my phone as long as I want, as long as I'm out by 5 in the morning. A lot of
Mhm.
a lot of places like me there because they know if I'm there, nobody else is going to be there, and if something happens, they trust that I'll call the police. So people
Mhm.
actually feel better knowing that I'm there. Some places don't want me. Some places really want me because of, I guess there's a lot of crime going on. But one night, yeah, this is it pertains
Yeah,
to
focus on the, okay, I hear
pertains to
you.
the story. Um, this is why I did it. Um, if the one night I was fine, I'd like meditate, work on music, process the trauma, work on my stuff. You know, like I'm always trying to get better so that I can make better stuff.
Mhm.
A cop showed up. I've seen enough First Amendment auditing videos to know when a guy's like off the deep end a little bit, overly negative, trying to play power games. You know, like they in most police brutality videos, the cop has a certain tone before he does something he's not supposed to, and the cop gave me that tone and that kind of aggression and that staring me down without blinking, and I'm just sitting there. I know that I don't have to give him my ID if I'm not committing a crime. He was trying to illegally force me to give him my
So,
ID.
and this is I think you're talking about the next case, but let's talk about
No,
the hardware.
I'm not
This
talking
is
about.
just the
I'm
propane.
not talking about the next case.
Okay.
There's no cases related to this, but this is why I was in the woods and needed the propane tank
Okay,
because
yeah.
after that the cops were following me around town. They were speeding off, so they would hit me with rocks. I'd be sitting on the ground. They'd speed and pelt me with rocks from their tires. The ceramic on the car tires is really loud when you hit the brakes, so they'd come right up to me and right in my ear. They would follow me through stores. Like I'd go to Price Chopper, and they would get out of the car. They'd walk into the store, and they would follow me through the entire store, pretending to look at
Mhm.
things, but they're really just hanging out because they assume that I'm doing something I'm not because of my hair and because I'm homeless.
Mhm.
So instances of them showing up and trespassing me without even talking to the owner. So like if I'm trespassed from TD Bank, they're supposed to call TD Bank security. Security says, yeah, trespass him. And then I get trespassed. The cop had issued me the trespass before he even spoke to the guy. And I had permission to be there,
Mhm.
is what I'm saying. So they did that a couple times to places where the owner never got talked to. So I was out in the woods and I didn't have a tent or a sleeping bag. There was a cold front coming through where it was October, but it was going to be down to 11 degrees. And I might have a screenshot, or I could Google October 17th, roughly the temperature that night, just to prove that I was gonna die.
Mhm.
By the way, my brother froze to death in February.
Mhm.
He was homeless and he fell, hit his head. He was 22. He hit his head in Brattleboro, and nobody helped him, and he froze to death.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sorry to hear.
yeah, so just to provide it, like it was around the same temperature. So if I had just passed out, if I was like, if I don't drink or smoke, but if I did
Mhm.
drink and I passed out drunk, I probably would have died. So I
Mhm.
didn't. The reason I didn't feel safe enough to spend my money on an electric heater, and I bought a big Mr. Buddy heater that ran out of propane, and I needed a propane canister, was because the cops had made me not feel safe anywhere in
Mhm.
town because they wouldn't leave me alone. So I was like, I'll just buy a Mr. Buddy heater with all my money, and then I needed a propane canister, and I went in and told them, hey, I'm going to try to buy this online in a couple days, but right now I need a propane canister. And they were like, sorry, but I can't do it. I don't know what to tell you. So I
Mhm.
took one and left the other one. I'm not pleading. I told them I did it. And since then, I got paid like the next week.
Mhm.
I got a donation. Like I get money from Cash App sometimes. People that know that I'm homeless, that if I don't really ask for money, but sometimes people that work jobs, like I helped make a
Mhm.
landscaping company. I helped a family in West Virginia. I used to work with a church.
Mhm.
They help me sometimes. So I'll just randomly get a thing on my phone and I get $100 sometimes. Not a lot,
Mhm.
but that time I did get some, and I immediately went in and offered them. I I went and bought a bunch of propane for myself and from Price Chopper, and I've been offering them double what I took. Like I'm like
Over the store.
yeah, I'm like I'll give you double what I took. I'll give you 2 full propane canisters for the one that I took. just let me know, and they can't. They want me to pay real money, and I don't have the real money
Mm.
right now. So that's what they were doing, like Tamarack. That's like Tamarack is like a diversion
Mhm.
program, I think, where you can go through
Yeah.
them to pay. So that's why I took the propane canister, was because
Okay.
I just was worried about staying alive.
Okay, so what evidence do they have against you for this case?
I think camera footage.
How strong of a case do they have against you?
If they have camera footage, they can't. I'm not saying. I'm not denying it. You know. So it's a pretty. That's a pretty strong case.
Okay. What plea do you expect to enter in this case?
I would. I would do. I can't really do not guilty by way of I'm going to pay them. So I would say guilty and I'll pay them.
Mhm.
Maybe a plea deal where we go through Tamarack instead of any punishment, just to give them back what they're owed. They were one of the places that was not mean to me, so I do feel bad. But like Price Chopper, like the barn, where they really,
Mhm.
really like bother me and sometimes commit crimes
Mhm.
against me. I don't.
Would you, so would you consider a plea bargain?
I would want to pay them, or if they, I would hope they would take my propane canisters and just leave it at
Right.
that, where they get double what was lost.
Mhm.
I just can't. I'm
Would you
trying.
consider, if your lawyer thought pleading not guilty by reason of insanity was a good idea, would you consider that?
Not if I have to go to a mental institution, but if I have to go see a therapist, I'm already planning on seeing. Sure.
Okay. Do you expect to have any problems telling your lawyer what happened?
They already know. This was months ago.
Mhm. And have you seen the police report in this case?
Um, if it's tied in with the other one,
Mhm.
then yes, for the arrest warrant.
So what does it say you did specifically to get this charge?
Just for that charge, they said that I walked in, talked to the person at the counter, walked out, took a propane canister and left an empty one and walked away. Which I probably never would have gotten any charges if I had taken the lid off of that propane canister and put it on the empty one while I'm holding the empty one in the full one. Probably would have never gotten in trouble.
Mhm.
But I didn't.
Okay, let's move on to the next case. So this next one is from October 19th of 2024, and this is where they approached you in your tent. So do you know what you were charged with in this incident?
Probably violations of conditions and assault on an officer with bodily fluids. Is there another charge for resisting arrest and maybe assault? I don't know.
So this one you had one charge of simple assault on a protected or on a law enforcement officer, emergency medical personnel, healthcare worker with fluids, and then one charge of resisting arrest and one charge of violation of conditions of release. So
Okay.
what does simple assault on law enforcement with fluids mean?
It means that it intentionally fluids left me and hit them. I don't think if I cry or something, I'm like, and then a tear hits them. I don't think they're going to charge me.
Is that one a felony or a misdemeanor?
I don't know. If a simple assault is a misdemeanor, it's probably a misdemeanor.
Right, it's a misdemeanor.
Okay.
And what about resisting arrest? Is that a felony or a misdemeanor?
It's got to be a misdemeanor. It might be,
Yeah.
yeah. Is it if they were excessive in the resisting? Like, let's say a cop tries to handcuff you and you know MMA and you floor him. Is that A felony.
I'm guessing it might, depending on, what you did, it might be like an aggravated assault or something like that. But
Okay.
I don't know, I'm not a cop. I don't think resisting arrest, I believe if you have multiple, it can become a felony, but I'm not sure about that. But this is resisting arrest number 1, and it's a misdemeanor. So
Okay.
what does resisting arrest mean?
Resisting arrest is where they're trying to arrest you and you willfully act against it. So I think they charged me once with resisting arrest because they didn't tell me I was being arrested, and I lifted my arms up and I didn't put them down. And I said, "Why are you doing this? Have a conversation with me. Please talk to me. I don't know what you're doing. You just grabbed me out of nowhere. I'm right here." And I got a resisting for that because I was fighting them putting my arms down.
Okay. So what kind of punishment do you think you could get for simple assault on a law enforcement officer?
A fine and jail time. I don't know how
Right,
much.
you get up to a year in jail and up to $1,000 fine.
Okay.
What about resisting arrest?
A bit less than that.
Yeah, it's up to a year, but and then up to a $500 fine, so a little bit of a less fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are you hoping is the outcome of this case?
Well, do you want to get into the story?
Yeah, you can tell me what happened first, and then we can get back to
Okay.
that one.
So I told you that I already had a lot of trouble with these cops before, that they had been giving me a lot of problems and doing things. Like I have a lot of videos of the cops stalking me and harassing me for months prior to this where I'd done nothing wrong at all. And I'm just like sitting in a place on my phone in public, and the cops are like really trying to get me with a charge, just like trying to. Now I know it's called entrapment, where they're trying to coerce you into being disorderly so they can give you a disorderly conduct charge where you were completely fine prior to the interaction. So it's like I look homeless and I'm sitting in a park, and then suddenly someone calls the cops, or nobody called the cops, and the cops are just saying that they did. And then they show up and really, really go at me for a while, and I end up getting trespassed, for nothing. I'm just sitting there in like next to a graveyard outside a public library, and then I'm trespassed from the graveyard, and then I talk to the graveyard owner, and he's like, "The cops never called me.
Mhm.
They trespass, which is a felony. That's soliciting a
Mhm.
trespass. I know that's a felony." So I was out in the woods where my tent was out in the woods. There would be no way for the cops to know I was there. So it was really concerning that they showed up, and they there was something about when they came by my tent, they were stomping as loud as they could, like really loud. They
Mhm.
stood there for a while and didn't say anything at all. When you're homeless, you get death threats pretty often. Like in Vermont, especially,
Mhm.
people drive by and be like, "You're not going to make it to sundown," or chuck a beer can at your head. I've been shot at before. I don't just by
Mhm.
randoms that hate homeless people for whatever reason, that just don't like the way that I look, and they come at me. And there's no cops. They don't care. Sometimes they are the cops. Like I have those types of stories too. So
Mhm.
I don't know what's happening at all. So I just stay in the tent. I don't say anything. Eventually, one of the cops goes, "Morristown Water and Light, the property owners want everybody off the property, so you need to go and everybody else needs to go."
Mhm.
So I said, "Okay, but I have PTSD and I don't like your tone. I don't like the way you're talking to me. You're scaring me." Because the way he said it was much more aggressive and like barking at me, and there was like this sort of like a Disney supervillain tone, like Morristown property needs you to leave, and I'm like, I don't like the way you're talking to me. I said,
Mhm.
not leaving, but if you guys go check on all the other homeless people on the property, because there were a couple more. It's the rail trail, the Lemoy Valley Rail Trail. So I'm like, go. I'm not comfortable. I have PTSD. Please go check on them. I'm gonna clear out. If I'm here when you get back, and I'm still here, then you can pester me. But it just would make me feel comfortable if you left me alone. And I thought that that was
Mhm.
respectful, and I thought that they would be fine with that. They escalated. They got more aggressive. They got more trying to intimidating. They got closer to the tent. I could see the silhouette when the guy's arm is like this. You know, he's holding his gun. I've seen so many videos. I think like recently there was a cop that shot 2 kids from Massachusetts in Rutland. In Burlington, I've witnessed like probably 5 or 6 times the whole like 10 police will come down from the Burlington police station down to the skate park, and they'll just start wailing on homeless people. Like I've seen guys get jumped by cops a lot. I've seen cops. I think I've witnessed a rape once where cops went into a homeless girl's tent and she was screaming and I ran for help. I came back and she was gone. So I just don't like cops, especially when they are so obvious about that they seem like they're up to no good. Like they're playing a character. They're playing a character. I really didn't feel safe. I told them that. I didn't tell them my name. I wasn't going to help them ID me because I'm like, I don't think they're even here legally. I know they're only here. I thought they were only here to issue me the citation for the propane canister. I'm telling you, I didn't know I missed court because no one had told me that I missed court. My lawyer hadn't talked to me at that point. So I really didn't know I had a warrant. I probably wouldn't have taken the propane canister if I knew I was going to go to jail for a warrant for arrest. So they assume that I'm Casey, even though they've said they've never met me before. The cop that issued me the citation said he's never seen me or heard my voice before, ever. But they issue a stranger in a tent a citation for Casey. I've told them I'm not going to tell you my name. I don't have to give you my ID. If you're really just here for me to leave, I will leave. Just leave me alone, please. And then come back and I'll be gone, I promise. But because they wouldn't leave, one cop, after he issued me the citation, they pretended to leave. So they literally, like a cartoon, they stomped away and then they snuck back around thinking I wouldn't hear them, and they waited for me to open the tent so they could ID me by seeing my face. And I didn't, and then they didn't care, and then they went right for the arrest, knowing that they don't know who's in the tent. They're assuming that it's me. The police report we can get into is full of lies. It's misspelled. The guy was on something. The guy gets caught for being on something a lot. Like that cop gets in trouble for doing things he's not supposed to, and everyone in town thinks that guy's on meth. They don't like him. I will get into that cop. The cop that did it is the same cop that ripped my door open and was swerving the car at me. So he doesn't know that Casey O'Brien is the same guy that he did that to. I'm sure he doesn't even remember it because it's just probably normal for him to do stuff like that. But I knew who that guy was. That guy also. I also do have recorded testimony of women that have said that he has pulled them over or gone to their tent and said, "I'll get you off if you get me off," and tried to solicit a blowjob from them for getting them off drug charges that I'm not even sure that they had. Like they said it was bogus. And they, like many people separate that don't know each other that I ran into, have told me that cop is notorious for trying to solicit sexual bribes. So I posted that on the police page. I posted the video of the girl saying that about their sergeant. That within 24 hours, somebody pulled up to my tent and shot at me. And when
was that?
This was after the arrest. So just to tell you about that cop, basically, he assumed that I was Casey. He didn't know if I was Casey. I hadn't given him no reason to believe I was Casey, other than they wanted it to be true. He ripped open the tent door and he emptied an entire can of mace in my face. It went out of my mouth, my nose, my eyes, my ear. It took about a half an hour to get everything out. The nurse did a really good job, like extensively, to get it out because of what I told him about what happened last time in Brattleboro, where they didn't wash my eyes at all and they left me there for days. That happened.
So what are you hoping will be the outcome of this case?
Well, just to get into it, because they maced me, I wouldn't leave the tent. I wouldn't give my ID. They maced me. I said, "Mace doesn't work. What, are you going to tase me now?" So then they tried to get me out of the tent. And I said, "I don't like how you're doing this. You don't even know who I am. I don't feel safe. I'm not resisting, but I'm literally just not going to move. And you can do what you will. If you want to rip me out of the tent, rip me out for a propane tank. Instead of just talking to me not politely and saying, 'Hey, you have a warrant.' they did all this sneaky stuff,
Mhm.
trying to scare me, intimidation tactics. Like they did all this stuff to like really try to make it traumatic for me. So I'm not
Mhm.
gonna cooperate. So I stood there. They ripped me out by my legs. I ripped my on a nail on the pallet that my tent was resting on. I cut my head open when they ripped me out. They put me on the ground. One cop had my arm fine. Cuff was fine. This one
Mhm.
cop, this cop is Audette, the cop that ripped my door open and maced me and did the whole thing. He admits that for no reason he put my arm in a painful wrist lock. Put my arm, he tightened it as tight as possible to a point that there was blood. I was bleeding from my wrist because he tightened it so much. Had my arm that he took a really long time to put my arm in this really weird position that was really uncomfortable. I swear to God. Then I can't breathe. I can't see. I can't hear. Like it burns in my ear and my nose and my mouth. I just am like, I don't know what to do. I'm like struggling to breathe. I'm begging them, please help me. Did you even call an ambulance? And the cops won't answer me if they called an ambulance. They made me sit there while they searched my tent illegally for looking for drugs. They eventually got my water after joking about pouring grape soda in my eyes on accident. They finally got my water and I had to drown myself, like getting it into my lungs so I can breathe. Um, then I had to do it like 5 or 6 times when they walked me all the way out of the forest. When I got to the ambulance, Officer Lamb, who did my cuffs fine, is leading me onto the ambulance. So he's like, come on, get up onto the ambulance. The other cop goes, wait, and he rips my arm as hard as he can. It really hurts. I thought he dislocated my arm or my shoulder. At my wrist, too. That's why it bled, because he was pulling at my arm backwards. I said, fuck you. But I had all this stuff in my throat and in my nose. I had just quit cigarettes. So I really did have trouble breathing. I was really struggling and I did have a lot of shit in my throat. I don't think that I hit him with the spit. I spit, so I said fuck you and then I spit. The intention was not to spit on him. The intention was just to spit. I swear because he was behind me like this. So he was standing here pulling me this way. I know that I spit that way. So there was no way it could have hit him unless he moved. But the intention really wasn't to spit on him. So
Okay.
yeah, but
Okay.
what he heard, because he was in the moment too, he might not have known. Like he didn't know where the spit went. It could have hit his leg or anything. He just heard me.
Okay.
He heard me spit after saying "fuck you." So he
Yeah.
basically pile drove me into the ambulance and started choking me out. Full hand on my throat. I can't breathe. I'm going. Your world is over. And he's like, "No, your world is over. You spit on me." And he starts choking me. Like I can't, full on hand on my throat, choking me, pushing me against the ambulance. Then
Okay.
the problem with the police report is that the guy who was in the ambulance with me, helping me, he said was out there helping him, which isn't true. He said that I spit on his chest right here and it leaked onto all of his stuff. So he tried to charge me hundreds of dollars for his equipment. But then later he came back with mental health and they said if I didn't answer what day of the week it was, they would haul me away for a long time. So after this charge, they came back a week later with mental health, and I didn't answer. I stayed in the tent the same way, just not responding. That cop did say, if you don't talk, I'm gonna do what I did to you last time, which was rip me out of the tent, pepper spray me, choke me, do all this stuff. He did threaten me with violence if I didn't say that I was in the tent. So I said I plead my Fifth Amendment, and they didn't know what to do. She said if I didn't answer what day of the week it was, I would go away for a long time, which is a threat, ultimatum. But in that interaction, he told everybody that I spit in his face. So there's already an inconsistency there. Where did I spit on you? Did I spit in your face or did I spit on your equipment? You didn't mention the face. The guy you said helped you wipe the spit off wasn't near you at all on the body cam footage. Everything you wrote in the report was misspelled. There's other lies in the report that he did, like obvious lies. In the ambulance, I tried to get them to undo my cuffs, and they wouldn't. But the nurse made a note of it. That's on the body cam footage. The nurse
Mhm.
said, "Your cuffs are really tight." Just like letting everybody know. I went to the
Okay.
I went to the
I'm
hospital.
just gonna move
Yeah,
you along here because that's, I'm not the judge or the
yeah.
jury, so I don't decide,
I just
what
wanted,
the officers did. So I think we've gone through the incident sufficiently for these purposes, and I want to ask you some more questions about this case, if that's okay.
yeah, with your like, I'm probably gonna ask to stand up and tell that story in the court,
Mhm.
regardless of
Okay.
what they
Have
decide.
you talked to your lawyer about that?
I think he's expected. He hasn't flat out told me no, but I think he's like you see how easy I just said I've been talking about it for 6 months.
Mhm.
I'm pretty sure they're ready for me to stand up and interrupt them. They haven't specifically told me not to say it, but the judge has been really, that's my favorite judge so far in Lemoy. She's very nice, and I think she's fair, and I think that she actually cares about this story.
Mhm.
Other
Okay.
judges would be like, kick me out of the meeting.
Okay. So what are you hoping will be the outcome of this case?
I'm hoping time served plus the injuries I sustained plus the trauma afterwards, because I've caught them stalking and harassing me for months after that, and they've come at me multiple times after that. They've emptied out a McDonald's. They sent 4 cops into the McDonald's, and they forced a mental health worker in, and he started
Mhm.
lying to try to force me to go into an institution, and I had to pull out my phone and record him and play back his lie, and then he was like, "I'm sorry," and he left. So I have instances
Okay.
of targeted attacks like that where
Mhm.
I've caught them doing things illegal, plus hundreds of hours of community service. Every time I come here, we advocate about problems and we talk about homelessness and how to fix it. I've come up with things
Mhm.
that have really helped a lot of people. Like now we have Walmart deliveries that come from Walmart here, so that homeless people that are struggling on food stamps, now they have easy access to getting big things from Walmart instead of having to go down there.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
work just a lot of
All right.
different
So,
stuff. So I'm hoping that the community
okay.
service plus Tamarack plus these
Mhm.
inconsistencies with all this stuff that happened and getting to know my character when I speak like this, that
Mhm.
they can tell that I'm not like a punk that did it,
Okay.
you know.
I hear you. So what evidence do they have against you in this case?
They have the body cam footage, they have my recording of the incident, they have
Mhm.
probably I don't know if they hold on to the ambulance footage, but they would have the testimony of the people in the ambulance, hopefully. There was
Mhm.
somebody there that I could call as a witness that said that she didn't see me spit on him, but she also said, "But I don't know what happened so fast." But there was
Mhm.
somebody walking on the rail trail that saw it happen that could testify that the cop did yank at my arm. Um, I don't know why they took so long to, like, they really tried. They tried to trespass me from the police station. They haven't come forth with the body cam footage, and we've been asking for months. So I think there might be something there. So I'm hoping that just at the end of this, maybe we can do time served for all the times I've been in jail in county, plus everything that I've
Mhm.
been through. If I talk about the suffering I've endured afterwards, hopefully
Okay.
they can see maybe my life has punished me enough, plus community
Okay. So
service
what
hours.
what plea do you expect to enter in this case?
I guess I would do not guilty to start and then see if we move to a plea deal for the simple for the bodily fluids and resisting, because you can hear me on the body cam saying I'm not resisting. I just don't feel safe. And I want you to change the way you're talking to me before I feel safe. And I'll easily go with you. Just stop trying to hurt me. Stop being so threatening.
Mhm.
You've gone outside of your protocols. I don't like this. I'm just going to sit here. You don't even know who I am. You could be doing this. My name could be Martin.
Mhm.
Like,
Okay, so let's move on to the next case. So the next one is out of, and I just got these this morning, actually about 15 minutes before we started. They sent me these reports, so I haven't looked at the whole things. So the next case though is out of the barn at Randolph,
yep.
in Randolph. Do you know what you were charged with from that incident?
Is it retail theft or petty larceny?
It's retail theft,
All
and
right.
then there's one more charge.
Trespassing or violations of a lease?
Yeah, yeah, unlawful trespass, building.
So with that, I don't have the cop's testimony, but she did assault me. She did the simple assault. She bumped into me and she hit me with a trash bag. She did lie to the cops and say that I threatened to kill her with a hatchet, and I didn't. And the cops didn't care. They didn't even look at. They admitted they didn't even look at the footage. I could probably bring a testimony of the cops saying they didn't even look at the footage, because that pertains to why I was trespassed, which I know they don't really need a reason to. But when I called it after they searched me illegally, I called 6 different police departments around Vermont and told them about it. I left messages for St. Albans, Burlington, Middlebury, Montpelier, all the different offices, and told them that these state police did that to me and that they should really think, like, do better and help me figure out what to do about this. Um, One sergeant that I spoke to at the state police said that he was going to go talk to her about removing the trespass. So that day, he told me he was going to go talk to her, and I probably won't be trespassed. So the next time I went in, I did assume that I didn't say anything, but I just assumed that it would have been let go because it wasn't a big deal. I thought that he was going to go in and be like, did Casey threaten to kill you with a hatchet? Yes. Can you see the video? And then there's no hatchet at all. So she lied in her report. And then I was hoping they would just throw everything away and I wouldn't be trespassed. So I went in to buy a charger. You can see on the camera that I do buy the charger. The charger is not the one that I want. So I go in and I buy a second charger. I leave with both chargers. Later, I found out that one of those chargers was not rang up. So I only paid for one charger on accident. And because I'm trespassed, I couldn't go back and bring it back to them. And I think I had already left town by the time that the cops had found me to give me that charge. So a month had went by and I didn't even have the charger with me. It was sitting back in
Wait,
red.
so let me go back. I just
Yeah.
want to make sure I have this right. So you went up, you bought a charger, then you went back and grabbed another one, and did you bring it to the counter again, or what did you do
Yeah,
with it at
so
that point?
I brought one up. He rang it up.
Mhm,
I put my card in. I left. Actually,
mhm,
in that interaction, I noticed that it didn't have the USB-A that like plugs into a wall outlet. It was 2 USB-Cs. So I was like,
Okay.
I'll just let me get the other charger. He brought me back to the chargers, got the right one, and then when I got back to the register, I said, you know what? I have a charging block that has a USB-C. I might as well take both because I
mhm,
don't want just one and then it breaks and then I have to come back. So I thought that he rang me up, but I think that when I left with the guy, I think that the cashier undid that transaction
mhm,
and I just didn't, maybe I didn't hear them. I'm not saying that I wasn't like trapped in survival mode and thinking that I'm on a mission in enemy territory and I'm not focused. They could have said
mhm,
either way. I just put my card in to pay for it again. Then I grabbed both chargers and I walked out.
mhm,
I didn't know easily if they had called me that day because all these
mhm,
interactions with like the cops and missing court, they have my phone number. They really could have just said, "Hey,
mhm,
you stole something from the barn." I would have been like, "Crap.
mhm.
Can I give it back to you on like in a couple days if I'm still?" Because I would have found out then I would be trespassed. So I would have said like, "Hey,
Okay.
can I just give it to you and you give it back?" I didn't know.
Mhm. So what are you hoping happens with this case?
They're gonna want me to pay for it. I don't have the money for it. Um, they're not gonna just let it go. I hope that they just let it go with like community service hours and stuff
Mhm.
since I don't have the charger to offer them. Uh, so they're probably just going to want money plus maybe community service hours, which I have.
Mhm. I'm still waiting for this last court order before we get to the other one. Let me just remind them. Let's see. Before we.
You still hear me? Yeah, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
Let's see will come. Sorry about that. Let's go back to where we were. Okay, so what evidence do they have against you in this case?
Probably camera footage.
How strong of a case do they have against you?
I don't know.
Okay. What do you think your chances are to be found not guilty?
If it was a different judge, I think this judge is not a fan of me already. So I'm pretty sure there's a good chance I'll get something. Like some form of punishment. But you know, if they don't have the receipts from the register, like if they have the register receipts that said that I only paid for one thing and then I took two, then there's not really anything I can do. If they have sound on the cameras, they can hear me clearly say. I could be wrong. It was a year ago too.
What plea do you plan to enter in this case?
If I plead not guilty and I'm found guilty, is the punishment usually worse than if I pled guilty?
Right, say that again.
If I pled not guilty and I'm found guilty, instead of just pleading guilty right off the bat, is my punishment usually worse than if I just pled guilty?
So, if you plead not guilty, then you go to trial. And yet, so the reason that people plead guilty and take plea bargains is usually to get less of a punishment than they would get if they were found guilty. So generally, yes. I mean, that's not always the case, but usually the plea bargain involves a lesser punishment. And that's why people take it, because it's less than what they would get if they were found guilty.
Yeah. And are people, is it like when I go to court, am I able to discuss this? Like, be able to discuss not guilty stuff, or is it before court we talk about this to make it easier during the court hearing?
Yeah, you would talk about it with your lawyer ahead of time, so the lawyer would know like what the other side is offering. So this would be something you decide ahead of time. So would you consider a plea bargain if your lawyer thought it was a good idea?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, and then the last one, well, let me see if I just got that police report. I have the police report, I just don't have the court order yet.
Did you have that ring last time we talked?
Yes. Yep. Okay, so I don't have the court order yet. Let me see. I just emailed them again. Let me see if if there's anything else we can go through before then. So, oh wait, this might be it. Hold on. Okay, yeah, we got this one. Nothing like last minute. Okay, yep, that is it. Okay, let's go back to that. Okay, so the last case is another Orange County case.
Yeah.
And this one, again, I haven't gotten through the whole police report myself because I just got it, but this one happened at Vermont State University.
Yep.
So do you know what you were charged with for that incident?
Unlawful trespass.
Okay, is it, we already went through that.
Yeah, misdemeanor.
And what is it that they're saying that you did to get that? What does the police report say you did?
I was on their property after a trespass. They said I was living there. They said that they found me living on their property.
Okay, so tell me what happened in that case.
I told you my car broke down at the park and ride. It broke down in town, and then it was moved to the park and ride because too many people were trying to bother me all day, and the park and ride was horrible. But after like a month, maybe around, this happened maybe in June, I think. I met Ray over at Rumor Has It. He's a guy that he has his own church. They do like Sunday service at his thrift store, and
Mhm.
he put me in touch with the community. I found somebody that was willing to get my car as long as the catalytic converters weren't taken off. They were going to take it, and I would get like
Mhm.
$300 for it. So I was really excited because that would have saved my life. I would have bought a guitar and maybe a bus ticket, phone service. Could have gone and done a lot more with my life. Moved on to a place that would actually hire me. That was the big problem, is that I was there looking for jobs and nobody would hire me because of the rumors and the way my hair was.
Mhm.
Um, that was a big problem. I couldn't get jobs anywhere, or I would have been able to. None of these problems would have happened. Um, but I called the police. I just left a message and said, "Hey, thank you for letting me keep the car here. It's going to be gone on Monday. Somebody's coming to pick it up. Just wanted to let you know and say thank you." So that I was just trying to be transparent and like build a better relationship, because they were really bothering me all the time. Like doing
Mhm.
one time they did a donut around my car. The state police did open my car door illegally and steal my hatchet from in the car. It wasn't on me in the barn, but I did have the hatchet in the car. They did take that, which was illegal. So I called them
Mhm.
about a half hour after I left the message. The cops towed my car and they took it for themselves. So I lost a place to stay. If I don't think you're not in Vermont, right? But you're in New England. There was a tornado warning and there was a flood. If you remember, the flood wiped out Plainfield completely, and I think Montpelier was submerged. Like you couldn't go on the street. Everywhere was flooded. There was a huge hurricane last year, and a tornado warning, a serious tornado warning. So I panicked. I came back and my car was gone. I didn't have anywhere to go. I was worried that I would just fall asleep and then wake up and then I'm in a tornado and I just get whipped with a tree and I'm dead. I know that we haven't had a tornado, but I've never been homeless and heard that. All I heard was through the grapevine, like at McDonald's, that people were like, a tornado's about to come through, and I don't know what to do. So I went to the high
Mhm.
ground where the state university is. I went to the cemetery and sat. There was no place I could go inside. There was nothing. Sitting at the cemetery, you can see the stone wall, and then on the other side of the stone wall is a bunch of farms. So I
Mhm.
saw a farm. I saw a shack in the farm. I'm like, I'm just gonna go in there. I went in there. There was an outlet for my phone. I could charge my phone. Once my phone was charged, um, I spent the last of my money on DoorDash. I bought a pizza. I had it delivered because I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna eat a pizza and watch TV. So I
Mhm.
waited there in the property, in this little shack, through the storm. When the storm ended, there was a person walking their dog that saw me sitting outside the cabin. It was really nice out. I was gonna pack up my stuff and leave and go back down into Randolph and figure it out, get a tent from Casey at Capstone. But the security had met me there and said, "Hey, you're on our property. This is."
Mhm.
And I said, "Why do you have to treat?" I told him, "Why do you have to treat me so bad? Like I've lost so many people. There was a hurricane. Don't get me arrested for this. I didn't know, and I was just trying to be. It was an emergency. Either way,
Mhm.
I got picked up a couple days later. I think on the 11th for unlawful trespass. I was tres
Mhm.
I was trespassed. I talked to Emil, who's the head of security. I was trespassed because a bag of I had a bag of food that I had left in the cemetery area, and animals got into it. So like my bag
Mhm.
of like I had stuff in a Tupperware and like Nutri-Grain bars, and it had been ripped up. So there was
Mhm.
trash, and they thought that I just dumped my trash.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it was that plus I walked through campus once and I was learning indigenous music, and I would have like mentors online that I was speaking to about like sacred practices out in the woods and how to like connect to the forest and get back to my indigenous roots. I grew my hair out. I wanted to learn that because I felt like I had a connection to the forest that other people didn't, whether that's a mental
Mhm.
illness or not. I felt like birds tend to congregate towards me.
Mhm.
I've had a night terror once. I swear to God, I had a night terror, and a deer showed up and screamed. I didn't know that deer
Mhm.
do this loud exhale where they're like, "Mm." But one time I
Mhm.
had a night, I had sleep paralysis, and a deer showed up and
Mhm.
screamed at it to help me,
So,
and then I felt safe. So I was
So what, oh, sorry, I'm just gonna,
just
fo-
really quickly. I walked through the college, and I was going, hey, practicing the throat singing, seeing if the birds would respond. And security showed up and said, Phil Scott took a video of you singing and said, why is this guy squawking on our property? So it was that in the trash, plus probably the rumors about like this guy's a bad guy. He came at someone with a hatchet in the barn and with the guy with the baton. So that's why I was trespassed. And then
okay,
it was just
okay, so what are you hoping will be the outcome of this case?
I'm hoping it would be, I think it's called exigent circumstances. I know that the exigent circumstances applies to police that go into your property and take your stuff or search you illegally. That makes it legal. It's called exigent circumstances. But I'm pretty sure there's something like if I say it was an emergency and I was worried about a tornado and a hurricane wiped out a town 10 miles east, I was worried about surviving and that there was no damage to any property and that I left immediately afterwards. Hopefully, maybe if I talk to Emil, because I've already talked to him about lifting the trespass and he has no problem with it. Maybe those two things could just have the charges go away and be like, okay, it's not that serious.
Okay, what evidence do they have against you in this case?
I'm not sure, other than my testimony. I'm not sure if he took a picture of me standing there. Even if he took a picture of me standing there, it's probably just me standing in grass. It would be hard to even say that his picture was of me there. But you have my testimony that
Okay,
I did.
so what plea do you expect to enter in this case?
I guess I would have to do not guilty, and then they'd find me guilty. Not guilty by way of emergency circumstance.
Would you consider a plea bargain for this case?
The plea bargain would be you're guilty and it goes away. You cleaned up after yourself. You're fine. You walked 10 steps onto somebody's property to survive a hurricane, and then you left. I could have called him, but I didn't. So that's true. I could have said, like, hey, I'm really mad that the town is treating me horribly and you guys are contributing to it. Please stop being prejudiced. Sorry I called your friend fat, but he called me a loser. One time a guy told me to get off private property, and I said, if you weren't so obese, you wouldn't think this was such a big deal, me sitting here on a Sunday afternoon charging my phone. And I did have permission to be there from his superior. But I did tell the guy, I did call a guy fat. So I think that contributed to why they weren't that friendly to me.
Okay.
But
Okay, so we've gotten through all the cases. So have there been any new, I know we went through your medical history before. Have you had any new medical issues in the last year or so?
yeah, I smoked a lot of cigarettes and my lungs are messed up. I have not gone to the hospital, but I'm just genuinely kind of, I don't know, it feels like all my pipes are gummed up. I'm kind of a little bit disassociated all the time, and I think that's from cigarettes. Like maybe I clogged my heart, so I need to exercise, and then I'll have more presence. Like I will definitely, when I have these conversations, I go back and I sit by myself, and I'm like, that wasn't me at all. I could have been way more present to the moment and made actual conscious decisions, and change my character, I guess. So
No, you're doing fine.
yeah.
How do you think your mood's been over the last couple of weeks?
When I'm alone, I'm great. I'm definitely in an area where I don't feel like I belong. Like the way the people operate here is nothing like who I am and what I'm used to. In my travels, I've developed a much different perspective on life. So I don't mesh well with the way people live out here. I find everybody to be a little brainwashed and too aggressive with each other. I'm tired of people putting on characters and playing these social games because it's like I go sit in a McDonald's and everyone that I see is stomping at me and twitching, and every time I have a conversation with someone it's like they're staring me down and trying to punch me with words. Like
Mhm.
it's like
Yeah.
they're, so that makes me mad, and I tend to stew. So I'll be put in a bad mood after I talk to people, and that lasts a few days. Where
Have
after
you had any thoughts on hurting yourself or anything like that?
I get impulsive thoughts where I'm like sitting alone by myself, and then once I'm in public and these things start bothering me, and I think I regress back to a time when I was suicidal. I don't have
Mhm.
suicidal, like I don't plan on it, but it's like I'll be sitting there and all of a sudden I'll get a thought. I think it's an emotion or something where I feel like crying out that I am suicidal, but I know that I'm not. But it's like in my meditation when I'm sitting there in the woods and just like trying to breathe and get my focus back and remember what life was like before the trauma so I can try to
Mhm.
go back to when I was functioning. You know,
Mhm. Your thoughts about hurting other people?
I'm told that everybody does, but people have done horrible things to me. And sometimes when I ruminate, it makes me feel better to think, like, how easy it would be to get back at them. But I don't have a serious plan, and I would never do it. But I do have thoughts. Like when somebody's mean to me on the internet and they publicly ridicule me on a group Facebook page, call me
Mhm.
schizophrenic and tell me I'm a homeless bum. They make up things about me that I can't dispute because I've been homeless for years. So they're like, he did this and he was a creep. And I'm like, I haven't even been there. And then like my
Mhm.
hometown is just more and more disappointed with me, even though I'm so proud of what I've been through. It makes me feel better to think like, how easy it would be to just buy an air rifle and sit outside his house and get him one night. Because he this kid has threatened to kill me so many times, and he said that he had hired people to come get me. He made a lot of money on cryptocurrency, and he lives in a nice house in Maine now with his wife. He's 22, but he has schizophrenia. He had a brain
Mhm.
injury. He had a brain injury that developed into hallucinations. So
Mhm.
he'll hit me up every 6 months, and he's screaming at me on Facebook for
Mhm.
hours. I've called the police about him. He's driven 9 hours to come bother me in my tent,
Mhm.
holding his gun, sitting in the car
Mhm.
blasting Future.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
I posted where I was at on Facebook, and
You're
because
not planning to hurt him though, or anything?
no, but
No.
I feel slighted. I feel disrespected, and I felt like he got one over on me, which made me ruminate and like, man. So
Mhm.
thinking about it does make me feel a little bit more in control of myself, and then that usually, I know I'll never do it. Those
Mhm.
thoughts usually transition to, oh, why am I worried about this? Now that I can think and I'm not in PTSD survival, I'm like, oh, channel that into progress. And then I bought a pull up and dip bar. And now when I feel upset, I just do pull ups and then I feel better. The endorphins hit. I like the way that I look. I've lost weight. I used to just eat McDonald's. So now it's a motivator. It's just about changing that habit. But at one point in my life where I was trapped in the tent and I had these cops bothering me and people bothering me every day, um, it kind of felt me. It let me feel empowered to be like, man, I could really get him.
Mhm. Okay. Are you hearing any voices or anything that other people don't hear?
Um, Not that isn't normal. Like when I sit out in the forest, I experience things like one time I said, it can't be a coincidence that for 1,000 years the Celts believed that there were people in the trees that were talking to them. I'm like, why did for 1,000 years these people for 2,000 years believe
Who
that
believed that?
the Celts, the Druids, the indigenous people, the Aboriginal people, the Chinese philosophers believed that the trees, just like our spine, were a nervous system that transmitted something spiritually to us. So I'm like, I'm not saying that I believe that that's happening, but I'm like, what's going on there? Because I sort of feel like the aura changes. I feel like when the forest is in need of water, it sends out a signal suddenly that I feel really thirsty because I feel like the forest is thirsty, and then the day later it rains. So I'm like, what's going? There's something more that I don't know about that the people before me, before the internet, were really attuned to. I want to learn more about that. And then I have a dream the next night where there's a forest person talking to me. I wake up and there's an owl right outside my tent, staring right at me, cooing at me.
Mhm.
The forest is literally speaking to me when I asked it to. So like, there's something
Mhm.
there. And then I'll start to hear this buzzing sometimes, and I feel like there's like a connection to something greater that I don't have the ability to do yet. That's like just waiting around the corner. And then I'll get a notification on my phone that says the people in Africa are like they cry when they think that Americans don't have the ability to talk to the stars. Like when Americans go visit African tribes, they're like, you can't hear the stars singing to you, and then they cry when they realize that like Americans have no idea that we can talk to the stars, and that the constellations were like this beautiful internet Wi-Fi that we used to be able to stay connected to, and we used to be able to be a part of the living forest before they had a name for it, nature, to cut us off from the idea that the earth is alive and conscious the way we are. So
Okay.
sometimes I feel like I might go too far into thinking about that it
Mhm.
might take me away from putting on the show of being a normal human being. Where then I realize, like, man, all these people are sort of trapped in their own minds. They're like literally trapping themselves from this feeling of freedom that I have when I let go of all my responsibilities. Maybe I'm just a
Mhm.
hippie, but I'm not saying that I'm tortured by voices in my head that aren't real. But I'm saying that I do feel like there's something greater that I don't fully know about yet that might be outside the bounds of being classified by schizophrenia.
Mhm.
I definitely know people that I would give the schizophrenia diagnosis to, but I also think that those people might be possessed. Like they might have something in their nervous system guiding them towards something that's directing their behavior. Like we know now that parasites are very common, and parasites can get in your body, and we know that parasites will literally go into your past your blood brain barrier, and they'll piss in your brain, and they'll start guiding your brain towards going to feed them so that they can farm you. So
Okay, just
you know,
gonna
yeah.
focus this here a little bit. So do you have anything to write with there? Like you just need a scrap of paper and a pen or a pencil?
I have a pen.
Okay.
Do
Do you
you
have like any?
do you want me to grab a piece of printer paper?
Sure.
All right.
That's good.
I have to go out the room.
Okay.
I'm telling her about the aliens. A thousand people.
Okay, you can
Yeah.
just put that aside for a meeting. Yeah.
Is it for like court dates?
No, this is just a little test. We did it, I think, before the last time.
Okay.
Okay, so you don't need it just yet. I'm gonna give you 3 words to remember. Don't write them down or anything. I just want you to. The words are ball, flag, tree. Can you repeat those?
Ball, flag, and tree.
Okay, what's the date today without looking at the computer?
I can't see the date, but I know it's the 1st.
What month?
May, so the 5th, 2025.
Okay, and what season are we in?
We're in Taurus season,
So what is that?
spring.
Okay, and what day of the week is it?
I think it's Thursday.
Okay, good. What's the name of the place that you're at right now?
I'm at Capstone Community Action.
Okay, and what floor of the building are you on?
1, first floor.
What city is that in?
Randolph.
And what county?
Orange.
What state?
Vermont.
Okay, can you take 100 and subtract 7 and then keep subtracting 7 from what you get?
Yeah, 93, 86, 59, 52, 45.
Okay, you can stop there. What is this called?
Un lapis. That's a pen.
Okay, what is this called?
A mouse. I don't know what
Okay,
a mouse
repeat
is.
after. What was that?
I don't know what a mouse is in Spanish.
Okay, I don't either. Okay, repeat after me. No ifs, ands, or buts.
No ifs, ands, or buts.
Okay, I'm gonna give you instructions and I can only give them to you once. So I just want you to listen and then do what I said. Turn your head to the right, raise your left arm and look down. Okay. All right, I'm gonna hold this up. I just want you to read it and then do what it says. You can see that.
Oh, I can't now.
Okay, now you can open your eyes. All right, on the piece of paper, I want you to write any complete sentence.
Okay.
And then hold it up to the camera.
I have bad handwriting, but it says I hate compliance tests.
Okay. Now I'm just gonna hold up a picture and I just want you to draw this, copy it the best you can.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, good. All right, what were the 3 words I asked you to remember?
Ball, flag, and tree.
Okay, good.
Do you have Disney Plus?
I don't know. Why do you ask?
There's a TV show called Loki, which is about the Irish god of the wild, but in Norse it's, Loki from the Avengers, like Marvel. But in the first season, the guy, so Loki's like one of the most powerful gods in the Marvel universe, and he gets taken outside of space and time by the Time Variance Authority because he does something that's illegal for his timeline. So we say, if I'm supposed to go here and I kick a dog instead, they show up and now you're a variant of all the multiverses. So they take Loki and he's like, I have to get the Infinity Stone so I can become the most powerful god in the universe. And he walks into this like bureaucratic office outside of space and time. And there's a guy named Casey he's like, give me the Infinity Stones or I'll gut you like a fish. And Casey's like, what's a fish? Because he doesn't live on Earth. He's like, what's a fish? He goes into this desk and all the most powerful things in the universe are on this desk. And Casey's like, yeah, I use those as paperweights. We just don't need them around here. And Loki, the most powerful being in the universe, realizes like, I'm not powerful at all. There's this thing outside of space and time where everything I thought was like the greatest thing, the greatest purpose of my life is just meaningless to these people because a guy named Casey took him to that next level. And then in the next season of Loki, they break time and space. And then there's a guy named OB that has to work with Casey in order to get the Irish god of the wild, Loki, to become this ancient tree because he's now the ruler of time and the god of stories. He's like has all the different multiverses that he's now managing and cultivating like a god because Casey and OB helped him. And in the show, they show the O'Brien flag over and over and over again that Loki keeps coming out of a portal next to the O'Brien flag. And I just think it's really cool that like Casey OB helped the Irish god of the wild take over the multiverse in order to bring it back to love. So that's what I thought of when you said Ball, who's the Irish god of the wild, Ball, the horned god, flag, and then tree.
Okay, well, I think we have gotten through everything we need to get through, so I appreciate your time. I don't think we have to meet again for these cases.
Oh, you have fish on your. I like your painting. I just noticed.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. All right, so your lawyer will be in touch, after they get my report and let you know what's next. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good luck with everything. Take care. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Fucking bitch. Fucking bitch. Ball, flag, and tree, bitch. You thought. Yeah. I'm not crazy, man. I'm just a little unwell. I know right now you can't tell. I'm not crazy. I just have a lot of smegma. Let's go wipe it together, shall we? I'm on a lot of caffeine. You look concerned. Yeah. You okay?
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay.
Go.
I'm a smart ass. She told me to repeat ball, flag, and tree. That was I'm like to make sure that my mind is coherent. I had to remember ball, flag, and tree.
For how long?
Oh, wow. So I told her, have you ever watched Loki on Disney Plus? in the first episode, have you seen Marvel?
Yeah.
You know that Loki is like the most powerful villain.
Mhm.
Loki is the Irish god of the wild, Cernunnos. It's just the horned god. So it's also Baal in
Did you
Catholic.
tell it to this woman?
Yes.
Okay.
And in Loki season 1, episode 1, Loki gets taken outside of space and time to this bureaucratic time variance authority that manages all the different multiverses because Loki stole the Tesseract. So Loki is running through this bureaucratic thing like, I'm the most powerful god in the universe. I need these Infinity Stones. And he finds a guy named Casey who's standing in like this bureaucratic office, and he's like, give me the Infinity Stones or I'll gut you like a fish. And Casey's like, what the hell is a fish? Because he doesn't know, he lives on Earth. He doesn't live on Earth. He's never seen a fish. He lives in a bureaucratic office. So he opens a drawer and he finds the most powerful things in the universe in this drawer. And Casey's like, yeah, we use these as paperweights. They're just meaningless. And Loki's devoted his whole life to coming close to getting one of those things, which breaks his entire God complex. It just destroys his entire life because he realizes it was meaningless. And then he moves on to find meaning because Casey sort of took him to that next level. In the next season, they break time and they have to find a way to come back to fix everything. And a guy named OB in the basement works on all this different stuff to help them build these machines to navigate space and time. So Casey and OB have to help Loki, the Irish god of the wild. And then Loki ends with him having to become the god of stories. So he becomes this ancient tree that morphs into this big tree of life. And he's holding all the timelines together that are woven together like roots. And his position, he started trying to be the most powerful god. He wound up sacrificing himself to become this ancient tree. So it's really cool that they put Casey and OB, and in the show multiple times they just have the O'Brien flag flowing because Hollywood is run by druids. So they put that story there to teach kids.
Do you know those stories from reading comic books before? Or can you, because I'm lost with Marvel and I have been for like the last 10 years, maybe 7 years at least. And I just like, but I talk to Marvel people and they have this wide
Well,
knowledge. And
I'm not a Marvel lover. I prefer DC, but I also do not watch a lot of the movies because I grew up reading the comic books, and I like those stories, and I don't want a different story. That's the story I want. So I don't need to see Spider-Man rewritten 14 times.
I think a lot of Marvel stories are prophesizing my arrival on Earth. Because I'm an Earth cat in Vietnamese astrology. I'm an Earth cat, 33. My name's Casey Francis O'Brien. My dad was beaten by cops and survived because he was trying to do something righteous to show off to me. He was trying to protect his son. Matthew Murdock, the Daredevil, who's the Irish brawler superhero, his dad is killed by corrupt cops trying to do something righteous, and that found the security. Daredevil also sets the stage for Frank Castle, the Punisher. The Punisher loses his family by something and he gets a bad reputation and he goes deranged trying to get justice for what happened to him. My name is Casey Francis O'Brien. O'Brien means a castle on the hill. Frank Castle means Frank O'Brien. Francis O'Brien. He loses his family. Frank Castle's love interest is Kat O'Brien. So I'm like, I have like hundreds of these instances in the past like 2 years where like the same stuff that's in my life, in my surrounding themes and the story of my life is present in like Casey Rocket, Kurt Kaz, Kai Cenat, Kendrick Curry, all these different things. They all have symbolism the same as mine, and we all came out at the same time. And then the Bible talks about the fiery king defeats the dragon. You know, the Kendrick versus Drake beef, like the rappers. Kendrick is Irish for fiery king, and Drake is English for dragon. So he literally exposes Drake to be the liar, but Kendrick is also like Irish Ken. And then every motel that I've been to has a guy named Ken that runs it. Ken at the Hilltop, Ken at Motel 6 in Burlington. Ken, and then 33 Life Path. Ken's is 33 North Main Street. I have like 10 Jesse Johnsons. I know 10 Jessies in my life. Johnson guitar. I wound up in Johnson. She knows Jesse Johnson. My best friend growing up was Sam. It's like And it's just, I connect these dots. Casey means a tree. She's got a tree right in front of her desk
Yeah.
with a big.
In my defense, I did not buy that tree.
You didn't have to, man.
It's not mine. It came with the room.
It's just weird that I seem obsessed about connecting these dots. And when you put all the dots together, it looks like a tree or a constellation. Walmart has not showed up, and I'm concerned. The good doctor? Oh, I didn't wipe my schme. Let me take a pissa. Put that in your eyes and watch it. I'll have you know, Victoria, that every time I fart, I hear your voice in my head saying, I farted. I find myself becoming more like my mother every day. And I don't know if that's because she's trying to possess me or not. Back when I was an individual, my mother's actions traumatized me to a point where I felt like I was not capable of being an individual. I did throw a cat, but we could have kept it in the family. Was I weird because of my upbringing, or was I weird because I'm weird? I don't know, but my childhood kind of sucked. Doesn't matter that you spent a bunch of money on Legos. Childhood kind of sucked. I remember a lot of arguments about wanting me to do martial arts, and I didn't want to do martial arts. I sort of wish if I could go back, I would have also forced myself to do it. And I would have forced myself to, I know they tried to have me do play dates, but I was just weird. I think I can't say that it was bad that I watched so much TV, because now I love stories. I'm the god of stories now. So I'm really happy that I had an isolated upbringing, consuming nothing but art and creation, instead of learning bullshit social games. I'm taking baby wipes to my groin because I have a rash now. For some reason, when I talk a lot, I tend to sweat out of my nether regions, and that morphs into a rash very quickly for some reason. I don't know if it's nanoparticles or something that sits in my bloodstream that sweats out when I have to talk a lot, but it happens, man. I don't know, but I know that all I am is a story. All I am is a story. A story of a gay matrix. Gay aliens. There's a worm in my brain, and they put atrazine in the water that turned my dog gay.
I agree.
I'm sure they'll look at it and want to ask me an interview, or they'll send me an email and ask about it.
I agree. Okay. All right, then that's fine.
I have to check my Walmart order really quickly, and then I will come back. I have to make sure that I hit the button to have it show up.